All right. Looks like I'm live, so hopefully I am. This time around, I should have the right mic fired up, so hopefully everybody will be able to hear me. Anyhow, not terribly well organized for this week's show. Didn't find anything out in my travels, so I don't have anything for show and tell. But I did get a fair bit of stuff done around the house. Finally making progress on some of the millions of things I got to do. It was fairly nice over the weekend, fairly warm, and we got rid of most of the little bit of snow that we had. So I got pretty much everything that I need to get done outside done finally. So that's nice to have. And I got the big dresser moved down from upstairs. So I'm working on that. Got to glue a couple little bits back on, clean it up nice, and oil it down with some furniture oil. Then I can start moving stuff out of the bedroom so I can move that in, so I can sort the stuff and then move that back into the bedroom. So even though I'm finally making progress on some of this stuff, it's going to be a long, long time before the place is appreciably less cluttered and messy. But I've been able to get, like I said, a pretty good start on a lot of different things. So I'm fairly content with myself. I'm actually up early right now because I'm going back on midnight shift for a while. I should have a show next week. I'm pretty sure I'm off next Tuesday. Either that or I'll still be working nights, so I'll be able to do that. So should be on for next week, and with a little bit of luck, I might have some more stuff set up for us by then. But hopefully everybody had a nice Thanksgiving weekend or deer hunting season here in Wisconsin. You're having a tornado in your area, a traveling tornado. Well, they'll do that. It's been snowing all day here. I went to bed this morning and it was snowing then. Not too terribly bad. We got maybe 5 or 6 inches of snow, which is enough to make things a nuisance, but it's not anything that's really going to stop anybody. And of course, I get to go out and drive in it in the middle of the night so I can get out, get to work by 11. It's been nice all weekend up until now, but of course, it's that time of year when it snows and turns cold. Other than that, I'm pretty well set up for winter. Got things done that I need to have done outside. And I can start getting in on some of my other things that I want to get done, some other projects. I found a rack that'll almost fit that great big favorite roaster that I have. You have to bend up the edges of it a little bit because it's a little bit too wide in the middle. The roaster is oval, it has straight sides and rounded ends, and the rack is more elliptical. So in the very middle of it, it's a little bit too wide to go all the way to the bottom of the roaster. So I'll take that with me tonight when I go to work, and we've got an old sheet metal breakdown down in the basement, and I'll use that to bend the wires up so it fits all the way in the bottom of that rack. And maybe next week I'll be able to do something with the wood stove and and make something in that roaster, which would be kind of fun. I've done it before when I first got it. I did a recipe in my regular oven where I made a honey cayenne glaze for a couple of pork roasts. I think I'll see if I can find either a nice pork roast is fairly cheap right now. It's on sale, so I can get some nice whole pork butts pretty cheap. But maybe see if I can find a decent piece of beef to do in that. We'll have to look around and see what I find. But anyhow, let me see who all's here. Say hi to everybody. 6 Drops, good to see you. The Vermonters here and Raymond. Hello, you guys. Nitro Fumes, find any good iron lately? I haven't. It's a couple of things on Goodwill I've been kind of following just to see what the prices go for, but the couple of things that I was thinking about bidding on, I forgot about them actually. I was busy with other things and forgot to bid on the damn things. And of course, when you don't bid on something, it goes for real cheap. And when you do, the price gets run up way more than you really want to pay for it. So, of course, the stuff I was thinking of buying went for next to nothing, and I had completely forgotten to bid on it. RT Scott, Fred Revels, finally got off early enough to make it. It's good to see you, Fred. Mike Newby, Corey Clark, Gregor Green, Debbie. Hope I'm keeping warm. Oh, yeah. I always stay warm in here. Billy Lee Lawhan, nice to see Billy Lee. Honey Badger. Elizabeth Mendiola, Cast Iron Fanatic. Looking forward to the show. Well, hopefully I won't be too disappointing. Like I said, I'm not terribly well organized for this week, but things are coming around finally. Cynthia Wesley. Bookworm 73. Let's see. For Jim 44. Hi. Howdy, Jim. Good to see you. Debbie, Dan. Good to see Dan. Dennis Ross. Nice to see you. Shanudo. Jolene Cole. Billy Lee. Again. Thanks to you. Walker Rebels. You made it. All right. Yeah, one of the projects I'm going to be working on is probably make videos out of it. Going to restore that meat grinder that Billy Lee sent me. Most of it's in good shape, but the cutters aren't. They got pretty rusted up. That's the cutter there. So I have to de-rust and sharpen them. And the problem is, I mean, it'd be simplest, especially for the blade part there, it'd be simplest just to take a wire wheel on a bench grinder to that. But the problem is, wire wheels are surprisingly abrasive, and it'll end up rounding over the edges. And I'd have to do a ton and tons and tons of sharpening to get it back to where this needs to be. I also got to clean out, they're not real bad, but they do need some cleaning. I got to clean out the insides of the holes on the, I don't know what you call them, the end plates of these. I got to get a little bit of rust out of there. And the problem with those is you have to be careful not to chamfer the edges of the holes, because you have to have a nice sharp square edge on that, because this works more or less like a pair of scissors. You know, the plate is as much of a cutting edge really as the cutter is. So they have to both be nice and flat and straight and smooth. And if you round over the edges on those holes, it's like a dull pair of scissors. It just isn't going to cut very good. But anyway, I'll get into a little more detail on that and how to get around, and how to get these back into condition when I do the video on that. It's, over the next couple of weeks, it'll take me a little bit of messing around to do it, and probably have to do it in 3 or 4 or 5 steps. So once I get that up and done, because I have had people ask me about, where you can find hand meat grinders, things like that. And they are pretty common. I see them all the time in Goodwill, secondhand stores, things like that. They're pretty common, but the problem is they're usually dull. And you set them up and try and use them, and you have just a hell of a time with them actually, chopping the meat like it's supposed to. It just kind of smears it around, and they don't work very well. And I should be able to get this back into condition. And when I do, I'll, see if I can make a little bit of sausage with it too while I'm at it, just for fun. Brooke Casillas, good to see you. Nice. Brooke Casillas and Gregor Green. Got any snow yet? Yeah, it's snowing right now. It's been kind of light to moderate snow all day. And like I said, we got maybe 5 or 6 inches so far. It should be quitting here pretty soon. We're still got a few little flakes falling outside, but nothing too much. Get your butt kicked later if you didn't put a pun in about having a meat grinder of a different type for Mud in his chat. For those offended, I'll go to church later. Yeah, there's Universal meat grinders. Quite a few different brand names. Griswold made some. And of course, there's the Climax meat grinder, which is a lot more fun to use than most of the other ones. Purring Cat Lady from up there in the UP. Been using a grate that's for the bottom of a Sportsman grill for a trivet in your roasting pans. It works great. Yeah, it probably would. The one I got is just a wire rack out of an old roaster that I'd Yeah, I had found at Goodwill. Yeah, it should fit pretty good. Like I said, once I bend the edges up a little bit to get them out of the way, that'll be a lot of fun. Maybe like I said, roast up something nice with that. Because in the video I didn't have a trivet for it, and there were a couple of big chunks of meat and veggies and all that in there, so it filled it pretty good. So between adding a little bit of water and the juice cooking out of it, it got the water level got a lot higher on the sides than I really wanted it to. I mean, it would have roasted a lot nicer if it wouldn't have been, underwater, but it still turned out real nice. That's fun when the comments go south. Well, that's most of the entertainment is when things go off the rails. Not that we're ever all that well directed to begin with. You got some snow, but it melted. Yeah, we had gotten some snow a week and a half ago, I think it is now. A couple 3 inches wasn't a whole lot, but it stuck around because it turned cold. But it's been warm, fairly warmish since about Wednesday, and got rid of most of it. Use an old gas burner grate in your 12-inch Dutch oven for a trivet. Yeah, that'd work too. That now that I think of it, yeah, that'd work really good. Especially for a round one, if you can find the right size gas burner grate. But like I said, this is a big oval roaster, so we'd have to find. It'd be kind of tricky to find one because you might be able to find some that are rectangular that cover 2 burners, but then you run into where the corners are going to be too big to fit. But anyway, like I said, we'll get that tuned up and fit. Angie and Mike are here, one or the other or both of them. Good to see you guys. Hopefully you'll be able to find your windows and door frame. You should be able to build a door frame even for an outside door because door framing is carpentry 101. And an exterior door frame is a bit more involved than just knocking together 3 1x4s for an interior door. But a decent carpenter should be able to build you a door frame for that door that you guys want to use. If you know somebody that's an actual professional carpenter type person, they should be able to handle it. And like I said, it is a good bit more involved so that you make it wind and weather tight, but it can be done. Or if Mike wants to take the chance and try it himself, that's a good way to aggravate yourself half to death and learn how to do something at the same time. Y'all gonna think I'm dense now, but now I know what them trivets are for. I've never used one. Yeah, trivet is either for the inside of a Dutch oven or a roasting pan to keep the meat up off the bottom so it heats all the way around and roasts all the way around. Or a trivet can also be something you put on your counter to set a hot pan on. And a lot of times you can use a Dutch oven trivet to set your Dutch oven on your counter on. Recently found a little Wagner Bale griddle. It's only 4 3/4 inches in diameter. Crazy. They made a lot of toy cookware. Little miniature pans, waffle irons, skillets, things like that. It might be something like that. There were miniatures, there were toys. Sometimes there were salesman samples. They carried, salesmen, instead of lugging around 400 pounds cast iron, they would make miniatures so that you could, salesmen could demonstrate the products and show what they were. Isn't it funny you're building a house and a door frame stumps us? Yeah, I mean, it is a lot nicer. Another thing you can do is check around places like Lowe's, Home Depot, Menards, things like that. And you might get lucky and be able to find a damaged door. Sometimes somebody in the warehouse puts a forklift fork through the door but the frame is still good. And you might luck out and find one that actually fits. Get a good measurement of your door and see what you can find. And a lot of people do that. A lot of people do that with windows too. If they want a big window, you can often find one side of a patio door where they broke the glass on the other side, pop that out of the frame, and use that for a big picture window type of thing. So, check around at the lumber yards and home improvement stores, see if they have any damaged merchandise, and you might be able to get something pretty cheap and pretty that will actually work for you. Some of them toys are pretty pricey. Yeah, a lot of them are, and there's also quite a few fakes out there of the toys because they're pretty pricey and pretty scarce. So, kind of look into it if you're looking to buy something like that. Like there's, I think Wapak, maybe Favorite. There's a toy waffle iron that's out there, that has a Wapak or Favorite brand. I think it's Wapak, but I'm not positive. But they never actually made one of those. So if you see it, you know it's fake. And most of the fakes you can usually tell the quality just isn't as good. Although some of the miniature stuff is not really as finely made as the full size stuff because it was meant to be just a toy to begin with. But a lot of the counterfeits are really rough, nasty casting, or the lettering is off. So if you're looking to spend a fair bit of money on a piece of toy cast iron, look into it first, see if there's any known fakes out there, and do a little research on it. Use mine inside the Dutch oven if you want to cook biscuits in a round cake pan. Yeah, that would work too. Found an old Wagner waffle iron with wooden handles, stripped it with lye, but do you have any good ideas for seasoning oven, preferred if possible, and getting rust out of the tight corners? Yeah, waffle irons and cornstick pans can be a real pain to restore, because they got all those million nooks and crannies in there. And you get it stripped off good, you got to get in there and scrub that out. Give me a second here. I'll be right back. See if I can find it. I'll show you one thing that helps a lot. Hey, I actually found them both. And move myself over a bit. For cleaning up and restoring waffle irons and cornstick pans, this is a grout brush. You can find it, usually in the tile section of a, someplace like Home Depot or Menards. It's for scrubbing out the cracks in your grout, and it works really nice for getting down into the spaces on a waffle iron. And you're also going to want to get one of these. That's just a parts cleaning brush. They usually come in, this one's nylon, but they come in nylon, stainless steel, and brass usually. Don't use the brass ones because brass is pretty soft and it will leave brass residue on your cast iron, and eventually that'll turn green and look nasty. Use the stiff nylon or the stainless steel ones, and those are good for getting down into the nooks and crannies. These wear out fairly fast, but they're not terribly expensive. Usually you can get 3 or 4 of them for a couple of bucks, depending on what they are and where you get them. So get a bunch of those, and definitely get yourself a grout cleaning brush. It's real narrow and it fits just perfectly down in the grooves on a waffle iron. It's got some, I think might be a couple of steel bristles in there. It's really stiff in the center. It's a little bit softer out on the sides. but that really works nice for cleaning up waffle irons. And as for seasoning with the wooden handles, if you can get them off without damaging them, which sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. The wooden handles, a lot of times, they had a little tiny nail through the waffle iron into the wood handle. If you can gently pull that out without breaking anything, do that and get the handle off before you put it in the oven. If you can't, you can wrap it in aluminum foil, or the wooden part, then cover that with a layer of Play-Doh, and then wrap that Play-Doh with more aluminum foil, and that'll help to protect the wooden part of the handle. And don't season it at a real high temperature. Don't run it up to 450 like you would with a lot of stuff. Keep it down around 300, and you can usually get away with, and it usually won't cause any problems with your wooden handles if you can't get them off. Number 3 makes a good trivet in a pinch. Yeah, it would. Gotta get myself caught up to them. I've got a trivet collection problem too. Yeah, and you'll see a lot of times if you have a Dutch oven with a lid and the actual trivet for it that's marked Griswold. Wagner marked some of their trivets, but not a lot. Griswold marked quite a few of their trivets. But where like a large logo Griswold Dutch oven would probably go for 100, 125. If it has the original marked trivet with it, it'll almost double the price sometimes. One of your local subscribers messaged you today. They're keeping their current door frame but have a brand new door they want to install and don't need the frame. They want us same size too. Oh, cool. That'd work out great. And you can alter door frames a bit. It can be done. You got to cut down sometimes or refit. And you've got the advantage with a log house like you do, that if your opening is a little bit too narrow, you can just trim the whole opening with a chainsaw and make it fit. Let's see here. Those small brushes work great. Yeah, they're really handy. And if you got gunk down in the lettering that doesn't want to come out, you can get in there and usually scrub it out fairly good. A pressure washer works. Yeah, probably would. I don't have a pressure washer, so I haven't tried it on something like that. But yeah, after you pull it out of the lye and everything's loosened up good, blast it with a pressure washer. It'd probably knock a lot of stuff off of there. A box of homemade cookies would probably be a good payment for a door frame. I would think so. Give them something nice for it. You love having it dark early, means you shut down earlier. Yeah, that's kind of one of the advantages of farming is the days get shorter as the year goes on. But most of my work, you don't really pay attention to whether it's light or dark out. If it's too dark, set up a light plant and keep on going. But now that I'm working indoors, it really doesn't matter. You have a number 8 skillet slick and well used inside. What would be the best way to remove heavy buildup on the outside bottom and the top of the handle next to the pan opening? You can just use oven cleaner on it, and you don't have to spray the whole thing. You don't have to spray the inside. You can just spray turn it over, spray the bottom and the sides, and put it in your sink upside down, spray it down good, and then cover it with a piece of plastic wrap or a plastic bag or something just to lay it over it so it doesn't dry out. And you can clean out the outside without stripping out the inside of the pan doing it that way. You bribe the neighbors with cookies to get your cook stove moved in. The pressure washer after lye is a great idea. Yeah, I mean, now that somebody mentions it, yeah, it does sound like it'd be a hell of a good. I mean, I blast them off with a hose when I have it out on the deck, and that works nice. A little more pressure, yeah, it would probably work really good. As long as you don't go blasting your pan across the yard with it. You might have to make a little backstop to keep from blowing your pan away. No, he made the opening bigger with the chainsaw to get it in. Yeah. Yeah, my mom and stepdad built a log house years ago, and that was a lot of chainsaw work on that. And they could, the original, they got a deal on some windows, and they were bigger than what they had originally planned for when we were building it and roughing everything in. So yeah, we just trimmed everything out with the chainsaw and slid them right in. I might try the pressure wash technique. Yeah, I mean, like I said, it sounds pretty good. Had to scrub down the fish fryer lid today. Those grates are always fun. Yeah, I bet they are. I mean, skillets are pretty easy to clean. You can just, scrub away at them, but there's a lot of things that got all kinds of nooks and crannies, and, getting yourself a variety of brushes or specialty kind of brushes, things like this, and even just a regular stiff scrub brush works pretty good. Parts cleaning brushes, so you can get in there and dig at the nooks and crannies. I'd be selling one of your cast single burner boxwood stoves this weekend, $180. Hopefully, not giving away. Not sure what they sell up north for. The small little single burners, around there, it sounds fairly good price. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't think anybody'd really be willing to pay much more than $300 for one. So that's probably a pretty good price. Unless it's something, extremely ornate or, really, really fancy, you might get a bit more. But yeah, around $200 sounds right for a, little single burner wood stove. I wish you had a wood burning stove. Been looking for quite a while. Yeah, they're out there. There's a lot of, a lot of the smaller ones. I just drew a blank on some of the brand names, but there's a lot of little 1 and 2 eye wood stoves out there, or regular ranges like that with an oven. So they're definitely out there. Like I said, you got to make sure if you're going to use it as a stove, actually burn wood in it. You really got to make sure that the firebox and the flue are in good shape on them, because a lot of the ones you find are basically just for display only. Although you can, if you got something, something really nice that you want to use, you can convert them to gas. You can install gas burners in them, and still have a usable stove, just can't burn wood in it. I've seen that quite a few times where people have taken old stoves and put gas burners in them. And there's a lot of them that originally had both wood and gas built right into them. So, they can definitely be used, and, they look nice in your kitchen, even if you're not using it. Any good cleaning tips for sheet pans? Not really, beyond oven cleaner or lye or something like that to strip off burnt on stuff, just for regular maintenance, pretty much like cleaning anything else. I mean, how much you really want to clean them. Found a Chicago Hardware Foundry chicken fryer with lid for $20. No spin or wobble. What do you think it's worth? I heard $250. $250 is a bit high for them, but I've seen them go for $125, $150 for, especially if it's a hammered the hammered finish on it, those will go for the higher end of that. But $20 for just about anything, with a lid especially, is a hell of a good price. So I definitely grab it at any rate. Dennis Ross is running away. See you, Dennis. It was nice to have you here while you were here. Rinse the lye off, you'll get wet. Yeah, you'll definitely get some backsplash on you with the pressure washer. It's pretty tough to stay dry under one of them. Let's see, where was I? Oh yeah, my butcher block. Been thinking about some of the things I want to, how exactly I'm going to restore that. Ways to tighten it up a little bit, because with the old butcher blocks, when they're getting used every day, between the moisture and the fat getting worked into them, they were never really a problem. I mean, everything stayed all nice and tight on it. But when they're no longer used every day as a butcher block, they dry out and the wood shrinks, and some of the wood gets loose on them. And that's what's with that. Got a couple ideas. I'm going to run a couple more rods through it, because you can see right there, that's a big square nut. There's rods that go all the way through it and pull it together. I could probably tighten them a little bit, but bore a couple more holes through it and put a couple more, I don't know, 2, maybe 3 more rods through it to help draw everything down tighter once I get everything all lined up and ready to go and dig out some of that silly wood putty that's been smeared into it. And hopefully I'll be able to get started on that before too much longer. Like I said, I'm finally getting caught up on some of my stuff around here, which is always a good thing. You're never ever finished with everything, but as long as you're making progress on the stuff you do got, it always feels kind of nice. What else was I going to talk about? There's something I was going to mention and kind of forgot about it. Pretty sure there's going to be a show next week. I've been kind of watching on the Goodwill site, looking for the newer cast iron that's out there, things like Finex and Butterpat, and there's a bunch of modern stuff that's fairly well made, most of it, but it's usually pretty expensive. But I found a few examples I've been kind of saving and stockpiling for doing a show. Don't know if I'll do it next week or the week after for a for a show. Got a few, but like I said, I want to see a few more examples. They kind of run in cycles. I mean, you won't see any of them for a while, and then all of a sudden there'll be 4 or 5 different Finex pans or Butterpat or something like that up for sale. So I'm just kind of starting to run into Finex at the flea market. Yeah, I found a couple of the saucepans that went for a decent price. A lot of times when it does come up, it goes for 3/4 or more of what it would be to buy a new one. So some of it ain't really that great of a deal buying one used. But some of the saucepans, they went for a pretty decent price, a good bargain price anyway. And that kind of surprised me. But then again, the saucepans, there's not quite as much demand as there is for the skillets and Dutch ovens. Yeah, you're starting to run into Finex at flea markets. Yeah, some of the newer ones, I mean, you're starting to see the used stuff coming around. They're been in business long enough that the stuff is out there. Or them little Wagner 3-part skillets. You got yours for $5. You mean the bacon and egg skillets? They got a divider, one long part around one side and then two smaller parts below. Yeah, $5 is a real good deal. Usually the Wagner's $50-$60 I've seen them go for. The number 666 Griswold breakfast skillets that are divided like that, those go for quite a bit more. They usually go for over $100 when you come across them. So $5 is a pretty good price. I have one. It's a little square unmarked one. I'm not sure if it's a Lodge or an import, but it's pretty decent little skillet as skillets go. On my list of characters on the wall, do you have any favorite skillets? Yeah, kind of. I mean, I've got a little made in Taiwan skillet that I pretty much always use for frying potatoes because it browns real nice. Yeah, I mean, for some reason. You'll notice even, as you use cast iron, different pans cook differently, even if they're the same maker. So, and some pans work better for bacon and in the oven. Some pans work better on the stovetop. So it kind of depends on what you're doing. But apart from that little Taiwan pan I use for frying potatoes, I pretty much rotate through everything else, just to, depends on what size skillet I need. But I try to make a point of using all the pans at least every once in a while just to keep them in shape. It seems like I have a lot more Wagner than anything else, and I do like the Wagner stuff. So, I don't have a real hard favorite, I would guess. What do you think is heavier, Paula Deen or Ugly Hammered? Usually the Paula Deen. I mean, the Ugly Hammered stuff is pretty chunky, pretty heavy, but everything I've ever come across for Paula Deen stuff is easily twice as heavy as it should be for what it is. Some of it looks pretty nice. I mean, the hammered Paula Deen stuff does look pretty nice, and they got some that have kind of a swirled scallop design on the lid of a Dutch oven, I think. Looks great, but it's not that great of a quality, and it just weighs a ton. I mean, it's insanely heavy. Yeah, the bacon, eggs, toast kind. Yeah, I mean, they're pretty nice, little divided skillets. Bass Pro Shop sells a whole line of Finex. Ah, cool. I mean, you can get it directly from the company. They got websites for all these guys, and I've been checking the prices on what some of the stuff is new when I come across something that's up for sale, just to see what it is, what the actual selling price is. Thoughts on the Stargazer cast iron? I know what it is, but I don't have any of it, so I don't really know how it compares. It looks like it's pretty decently made. Looks like it's fairly smooth inside. But beyond that, I don't really know a lot. The only new one I have that's kind of buried. I've got a Smithy Company chef skillet that I just picked up here a little while. So, I don't really know much about the new ones because I don't have any of it. I just learned to use cast iron and find that all the time. They don't all they don't all cook the same. Yeah, I mean, some, it's strange. Even the same maker, you think it'd be a lot more similar, but there can be pretty big differences. Some pans just seem to brown better than others. I don't know why, but just seems to be the way they are. Some of them do a lot better in the oven. Usually your heavier, thicker pans work a little better in the oven than a thinner, lighter one. You can use either or, but the heavier ones seem to work nicer in the oven. And it's just the nature of the stuff. A little scared to use your Wagner 10 on the stove. There's no spin to it yet. Yeah, you want to be careful with the bigger pans, especially because if you do heat them up too much in the center or heat them up too fast, they can warp and you start getting spin and wobble in them. And with the bigger pans, you can put them in the oven first, heat them up to like 275 in the oven, 275, 300, and then take them out and fry with them, because that way they'll heat up evenly, and that'll help prevent a lot of the risk of getting spin and wobble to them. You know, with the bigger pans, they're usually a good bit bigger than the actual burner is. So you want to try and match your pan as close as you can to the size of the burner you have. But with the bigger ones, you're just going to get bigger than the burner no matter what you do. So if you do heat them up on the stovetop, start them off on low and take your time. Let them. You can even move them around on the burner a bit if you want. But take your time. Let them heat all the way up the sides and all of that before you start bringing them up to cooking temperature. You have a Stargazer and you're not a fan? Okay. Yeah, like I said, I don't really know much about them, so I can't say one way or the other. Making gravy in your cast iron with stock and you noticed your seasoning flaked off. Is that normal? It's not unusual to have, seasoning flake off, especially if you have more of a built-up coating like that. When you have pans that are that you scrub and they have carbon really deeply embedded into the surface of it, you don't get that so much once you really use them a lot. So that's why, I don't really advocate the flaxseed oil method, where you're basically varnishing the pan with flaxseed oil. And it works good. You get a nice hard, smooth finish on there, but it really is a layer of varnish on the pan, and eventually that will flake off. But with a well deeply seasoned pan, you don't really have any buildup on that. It's actually the metal itself becomes impregnated with carbon and polymerized oil, so you don't have to worry about it flaking off. You can still strip it off with something acidic if you slow cook tomato sauce for a long time. It will tend to strip that off, but normally once you get a pan seasoned right, you don't have as much problem with things flaking off. Need to watch my seasoning video, then strip this pan down. Yeah, you might have to. Sometimes you can probably get away, if you've been using it, it doesn't have a huge buildup. You can probably get away with scrubbing it really good with a stainless steel scouring pad. Just scrub it good, knock off any loose stuff, and then re-season it from there. Pat in the bunker, good to see you. Get a drink here. I'm getting dry. But yeah, like I said, it isn't unusual. When you slow cook something with a lot of moisture, especially something that's a little bit acidic, that you can start pulling seasoning loose off of your pan. And another thing with lids, especially because they get a lot of moisture on them, it seems to work best if when you're re-seasoning a lid that you stripped, put your first coat on at a fairly high temperature and burn it in good, and then give it a couple of coats of oil at a lot lower temperature, something, around 275, 300 degrees, and let it go, for an hour, wipe it down, do your usual seasoning thing, but do it at a lower temperature. And that seems to help repel the water a lot better, because it doesn't really polymerize the oil as much. You have a little bit more of an oily coating on it, and that seems to help quite a bit with lids. And when I use a lid, especially if I'm covering a hamburger I'm frying, or like making a cheeseburger, flip it over, put a piece of cheese on it, cover it, and let the heat do that. I'll make sure that the lid gets good and warm before I'm done, and the spray from the grease and the water on it, I'll just turn it upside down and wipe it out good while it's still warm, and then let the heat dry itself off. That way, you'll leave more of that oilier coating on there, and that helps to protect them a lot better from moisture. I was watching one cooking channel. If I lived by the guy, I'd go to his place and clean his pan for him. Yeah, there's some of the stuff you see on YouTube, kind of drives you nuts, some of the things. But, most of the ways that people clean their cast iron is just a matter of personal preference. There's not really a lot of things you can do that's really wrong with, care and maintenance of cast iron beyond putting them in a dishwasher, because they will definitely rust pretty bad if you put them in a dishwasher, because dishwashers are a lot steamier and they stay wet and they stay warm for a lot longer, and it'll rust them real bad. Have you seen or have a cast iron rail spike that was worked into a knife? Not rail spikes. I've seen a lot of videos where people make Damascus steel out of a lot of really different things. Chainsaw chains, pretty cool. And you basically stack up different types of metal and forge weld it all together, and then etch the blade once you get it all shaped up. They're really, really interesting, but I haven't seen one out of a rail spike. Seen a lot of them made out of files. Stargazer seems over-engineered. Yeah, like I said, I'll take your word for it because I don't have any real personal experience with it. So, but eventually, once I find some of these things cheaper, I will definitely buy them. Like I said, I found that the Smith Company chef skillet, and I still haven't had a chance to use it, but it looks like a pretty decent one. Wasn't how he cleaned it. Had about an inch of buildup around the base of the handle. Yeah, that's quite a lot. A lot of people don't believe in washing their cast iron. They just kind of let just wipe it out and let it build up. And usually, build up on the outside, on the sides of the pan is pretty harmless. It isn't going to hurt anything. It can be aesthetically ugly, but it's not really a problem unless you get a heavy buildup of carbonized stuff on the bottom of the pan, because then that'll make it so that it doesn't heat evenly. Usually it's a lot thinner in the middle and it builds up on the sides first and heaviest. And that can act as insulation, and it won't heat evenly. It'll make it more prone to warping because you got, basically a bare spot in the middle that heats up really fast while the rest of it heats slower. Let's see. I heard there's seasoning issues with Stargazer. There could be. If a pan is too smooth, it can be, if it's really polished, it can be tough to season. You see a lot of people that like to sand down newer Lodge pans. And, if you just sanded them down with a coarse grit, like a 50 grit sandpaper, it wouldn't cause any problems. But a lot of people, they want a, really polished mirror finish, and they'll keep going finer and finer and finer and finer with things until they have it, a glossy mirror finish. It looks beautiful, but it's really tough to get it to season. Picked up one about 10 years ago at an ironworks years ago. Has some awesome cross hatching on the handle. That sounds pretty neat. Some of the old Gatemark stuff has really fancy handles on it. I don't have anything quite that fancy for the Gatemark stuff, but I'll definitely get some eventually. Is my knee getting better? Yeah, it's pretty good shape right now. Like I said, you can see my exercise bike behind me there. And when it starts to get a little bit tweaked on me, I'll kind of use that just to work it out and get it loosened up. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up. Yeah, that helps, I guess, with the YouTube algorithms, trying to get YouTube to pay attention to you. But at least there's folks who come around pretty regularly. I mean, I've been pretty regularly getting around 50 or so people watching. In the grand scheme of things, it ain't a whole lot, but it's pretty decent number. It's been pretty consistent, so at least the people who are actually watching me, are watching me fairly regular, which is always good to see. Let's see here. No workout bike demo. No, you don't need to see me gasping and wheezing for breath. Oh, I'm pretty sure Dan was talking about knives instead of pans anyway. Sometimes I lose track of all the conversations going on in the chat. But anyhow, like I said, I'm pretty sure we'll be on for next week. Did I have surgery? No. My knees are actually pretty good shape considering the things I've done to them over the years. I mean, I know a lot of people my age, their knees are just shot, but so far they've held up real good. It's just that, like I said, especially this time of year when you get a little snow on the ground and you're walking on snow, sometimes the snow will compact under your heel and you'll kind of drop down sudden, and it makes my knee want to hyperextend just a little bit, and it's enough to tweak it and make it ache and hurt for a couple of weeks. But usually, like I said, if I can keep it working on the bike for a bit, it settles down fairly soon. But yeah, so far, I mean, my joints are in a lot better shape than they have any business being for what I've done for a living and for as long as I've survived so far. Because did a lot of climbing in and out of ditches on soft ground and kneeling on concrete, and yeah, I mean, I'm really happy that my knees haven't given me nearly as much problems as they have, because like I said, a lot of guys my age, your knees are just torn up to no end, having knee replacements and things like that. I've held up pretty good so far. Hopefully I can keep it that way. In the winters, your knees really hurt. Yeah, when it turns colder, the weather changes, it can really have a huge effect on your body. I mean, you wouldn't think just a change in the temperature or change in the weather would bother you that much, but I can feel rain coming, my knees hurt. It really is true. I don't know why, but yeah, bad knees, arthritis, the old guy stuff. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm surprised I haven't worn out more than I have. But anyhow, I'm gonna wrap her up here. Should be on again for next week, and by then, hopefully, I'll have a little bit better organized show. It's always kind of nice to chit chat, but it's always kind of nice to have at least some kind of direction to start off with too. So we'll see you guys next week. And like I said, I'm 99% positive there will be a show next week. I'm either working night shift like I am now, or it might be off too. I'd have to double check my schedule. And in the meantime, I hope you all have a good time and enjoy yourselves. And thanks a lot for watching, and we'll see you next time.